Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, OnPay. Without them, we could not be sharing these stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have Steve Howard with Spaceport Camden. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Glad to be here today.
Well, I'm excited to learn about Spaceport Camden. Tell us what you're up to.
Well, Spaceport Camden, it is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. In the 1960s, the world's largest rocket was test-fired right here in Georgia. We were declared the gateway to space, and we have an opportunity to make history again in the 21st century. So an amazing opportunity that will lift up the whole state of Georgia.
So now, at that time, there was this energy, I guess, towards building some sort of a spaceport. I guess you call it spaceport at that time, and then it kind of, I guess, Florida took over, or Texas. Like, how did Georgia kind of lose interest at that point?
Yeah, looking back at the historical documents, actually, what's interesting, in 2005, NASA declassified a document where they actually looked at Camden County, Georgia, as a potential site for the Apollo program. And really, Camden was the only one that was listed in this documentation, which Florida did win out. So I think there was a lot of debate between that. So the good news now is that the private sector is actually accelerating the growth. I always tell a story. I was with SpaceX about 6-7 years ago in Washington, D.C., sitting at a table with them. And I asked them, I said, what could we do differently as we prepare for the future of a spaceport? And they said, create a landing zone. And everybody in that room looked at him and said, what are you talking about? And one of the SpaceX officials said, Steve, we're going to bring the rocket back and we're going to reuse it. Everybody looked at him like they were crazy. It was something out of the Jetsons. And here we are. It's routine. And they've done it, I think they're up to 25 plus times now. So you're seeing lots of innovation, lots of opportunity. And if you look at Georgia as a whole, I mean, it's just amazing. You look at Georgia Tech, the top ranked university system in the world. More engineers graduate from there than any other program. More minorities actually graduate from Georgia Tech, which is an amazing opportunity as well to continue to leverage all of that talent. Also, Georgia's ranked number 1 for aerospace manufacturing attractiveness. We beat out all the other states. So we have all of the assets. We have all the opportunities to leverage this asset and to be part of the new space race. And that's what's exciting with these companies. They're looking for a clean slate. And what Camden has is the space legacy without the legacy cost. So that's what excites. You take a Blue Origin, which has been to Camden County, which is owned by Jeff Bezos, the Amazon founder, or Elon Musk with SpaceX. They recognize this asset. So what an opportunity to take a stranded asset currently that was utilized in the 60s for the space program, turn this back into an amazing opportunity for Georgia, which will create a STEM workforce pipeline.
So now, was that spaceport in Camden all these years just kind of laying dormant? Like the government had access to it, but they weren't using it?
Yeah, it was back in the 60s, it was a private sector transaction. The company was called Baikal Corporation. They had a NASA contract to help with this rocket, the rocket creation and testing and things like that. And they went into other variety of other business lines on that property. And eventually the property became vacant. It was purchased by another third-party company to set dormant, like you said, for multiple years. So it's currently just stranded. It's just an asset currently that's stranded that we can leverage. If you launch a rocket up in Cape Canaveral area, you get what you call a free boost. The closer you are to the equator, less fuel, more cargo. You can do that same rocket launch in Camden. A 2% difference is all it is. So you get all the benefits of having the Kennedy Space Center, geographic location, the ability to go to orbit here, but you do it with a clean slate, without the legacy cost. And that's what kind of interests a lot of these startup companies that are looking for that opportunity. There was actually a great article in the Air Force magazine recently, and the headline says, Cape Canaveral's out of room. So we can help with that pressure. We have an opportunity, and what happens now, Georgia's losing all this talent. We have some amazing talent, I haven't even touched on the military component. I get emails and phone calls, some of the brightest. It doesn't get any better quality assurance than nuclear subs, which we have that talent right here, about 500 a year that transition. So we have all of this talent that we can leverage. And then instead of building these rockets, instead of just building rockets and building the CubeSats and all these things and letting all that talent and effort be launched on other state soil, we could actually do it all here. So we have an opportunity to design it, build it, launch it, and land it. So we could do all of that right here, and then at the same time, really do some amazing things for the next generation. And that's really what this is all about, with all the excitement that's happening in the space industry. And, Georgia's part of the new space race, and Georgia can become the leader.
Now, at what stage are you at right now? What's there in Camden right now?
We're at T-1. To become a spaceport is a very challenging process, complex, cumbersome, which it should be. And there's a lot of steps to become that. We are at the final stages of, there's 4 different, I call pillars. And one of the largest pillars I work through is called the environmental impact statement. And we're at T-1 there. We're anticipating in the next few months that the final EIS will be released. That'll be about a 30-day cooling period after that's released. And then a record of decision will be made by the FAA. And then concurrently, you work other components of the licensing process. And we're doing that currently as we speak. So we feel like 2021 is going to be a big year. This will be the first non-federal range on the East Coast that's vertical. So again, we have an amazing opportunity to do some amazing things here as a result of this project that not only will create high-tech opportunities for rural Georgia, but it'll also allow for tourism, STEM program, and also inspire the next generation. So we're very excited. We're close. We're excited to see soon on that FAA website where it'll show Georgia is now has the capability of not only designing rockets and CubeSats, we can actually launch them here and launch Georgia forward.
And then is there room to grow? Like, is this, like you mentioned, the Cape Canaveral is getting kind of a little crowded. Is there, you mentioned it, there's not obviously a lot of activity now, but is this something that it's going to be able to grow with the demand?
Absolutely. I think what we've always said, and a lot of times I've told folks, the spaceport is the catalyst. And if you look at other spaceports, you see exploration parks. One of the visions is an innovation research park, which would have incubator startup programs, R&D opportunities, training. Actually, I've got a company that I've been working with on a little bit that actually does astronaut training for commercial astronauts. That's the goal for there. But you'll be able to do all these a variety of things. I'm talking with another company, a foundation, with the potential opportunity of a hands-on STEM program right here in Georgia, right here on the coast of Georgia. All of those kind of opportunities would lend itself to do that. Much like an airport. If an airport, you have all the industries around it. So most likely you'd have that as well, payload processing, a variety of companies that would come on board to help with those services. And there's a variety of them. That would be the goal for those type of growth opportunities. And it's actually projected to be about $1 trillion industry. There's different numbers based on when that will happen. But there was a good article just recently. There was, I think, $8.9 billion of investment in this last year, even during a pandemic. So that kind of shows you, still lots of excitement with the new space race. The technology is just amazing. The technology advancement with safety is amazing with what's happening. So we have a unique opportunity, to really build for the future. And that's really what, this is really about. And I've been very fortunate to be able to go into the classrooms and talk with students and, be able to motivate and inspire that next generation, and the importance of creating that STEM workforce pipeline and ensuring that we have that world-class talent that's transferable for a lot of other jobs. So, knowledge is power, but applied knowledge is life-changing. And to be able to have the students within the Georgia system to be able to get up close to interact with a aerospace engineer or a welder, or, understand how you build a CubeSat, why that's important to them today and in the future, to be able to have that asset in Georgia, I think is, you can't put a price and a value on that.
So now, what are some of the things that could possibly be launched in the future? Is this something that it could be like a manned rocket? Is it like satellites? What type of thing is feasible?
Yeah, currently the focus we have on is really small satellites, which communication satellites. There's a variety of uses for those, for weather. It could be for GPS applications, a variety of those kind of things. Research. It's amazing if you do a quick Google search. There's actually kindergarten classes that are participating in research launches that are able to get involved with rocket launches and things like that. So there's a variety of things that could be utilized. You're also seeing, the push for commercial sector to actually be involved with military launches. You're seeing that as well. So, some of the national security initiatives and things like that. So there's a variety of those kind of things that'll open up, strong windows to allow the entry to research for university programs as well as, local school systems. So, a variety of opportunities for communications and other things that will open up as a result of this additional opportunity right here in Camden.
But like if you were to look at this in phases, so the phase one would be those type of launches, but at some point could it evolve to where you're going to the space station and you're doing things like that?
I think there's always those opportunities. I was fortunate to actually get to know really well Dr. Bobby Braun, which was NASA's first chief technologist and former professor at Georgia Tech, and he had indicated you could actually go to the International Space Station from the site. Also, this is one of the best locations to go to Mars from, he indicated. So we're not, currently we're not focused on that. We're focused on the small lift classification launches. But I think there's always opportunity, in the future as you progress, as well as, companies come forward. There's a process for that through the FAA that you would have to do. But I think, there's opportunities for that. There's a company currently that we're working with that is related in the tourism. There is tourism related. So that's a process that we would go through if and when, we got to that point. But I think there's lots of opportunities. I think if, the future opens up, the demand is there, market demand, you look at all that. But I do think that there's an enormous opportunity to take pressure off of Florida with some of the small launches. Or you could be able to, facilitate those right here, as well as, be able to give these university systems and research opportunities right here in Camden, where they may not be able to afford the legacy costs at other spaceports.
And then as you're kind of growing this and it's evolving, it sounds like it's still going to embrace that kind of private-public kind of cooperation needed in order to maybe even accelerate the growth of a spaceport?
Yes, I think that's our vision has always been a public-private partnership. There's a lot of successful P3s you can see around the country. This is almost, quite honestly, like an industrial park in a way, where you get the property, you build a spec building, and then you build it out. The difference with this is it's a launch site license. So we're going to look at a variety of those options. We've had a lot of interest from companies in the past with some of their needs, what their visions are. So our goal is once we accomplish our launch site license, that we would then begin going to market. At this point, we don't have a launch site license, so it's important to be able to secure that, which we're working towards that goal, and then continue to strengthen the relationships that we currently have with a variety of companies, and then begin looking at, building for the future. And, what does that look like with these companies' needs? So we're excited about what the future will hold.
So what's your backstory? How did you get involved with the space program?
I was asked, it's probably been about a little over 7 years ago. This project originally was with the Joint Development Authority. They were approached by the state of Georgia with a company that had some interest in a spaceport. At the time, this property actually wasn't available. It did become available. And as a result of that, they got involved in that, and then they asked for some funding from the county to embark on an environmental impact statement through the FAA. Sometime after that, they asked the Board of Commissioners if the board would be interested in taking that project over, which in turn the Board of County Commissioners turned to me and said, we would like you to become the project lead on this project. So that's how I was offered the project up to carry the torch for this project and to work to get it to the T-1 where we are today, and then the ultimate goal of deliverable of a launch site license. And we look at this project every year. We do strategic planning, and we just recently adopted our 2021, 2026, 2036 strategic plan, and also the action agenda items as well for over the next 12 months. And that is one of the pillars for Camden County, is to have a successful world-class spaceport. So it's important to, have a vision, have a goal, but also execute. It's important to do that. You got to be in it to win it. I always tell folks there's risk in doing something and risk in doing nothing. And I think history will judge us if we didn't give us our best effort. We are at the right place. We are at the right time. And it's an amazing opportunity that we should give our best effort to ensure Georgia's next generation has an amazing opportunity to do some amazing things and try to keep some of those folks here in Georgia. That's what happens. I get phone calls, emails from folks that it's amazing the resumes and the background they have and how much money was spent on their education, but they have to leave. And they say, Steve, if you had a spaceport or those kind of activities, I want to be there. I love that kind of quality of life. I don't want to be, at another state where they're at. So that presents yet another opportunity, as well as to keep this talent and some of Georgia's brightest thinkers right here. Keep them here, don't export them. I was at an event, I'll never forget, and I had somebody in the audience that raised their hand, and they said, when you're talking about these other states taking our talent, he goes, you're right. He said, I'm going to tell you this. He goes, I'm in law enforcement. He said, and I'll tell you what, he goes, if tonight we get a call and somebody went to somebody's house and they go home and there's a bunch of stuff stolen out of their house, the first thing they do is they call law enforcement. They call them to come out and they say, hey, someone took all my stuff. They tell how much money it was, and they're all upset. He said, but what's happening right now is all these other states are stealing all of our children after they get educated on the Georgia tax dollars and local government dollars, and no one's really doing a lot about it. So this might change that. This might play a small role, but another opportunity to ensure that some of those students that may be able to have jobs in the future and be able to have it right here in their state, to be able to have that whole supply chain opportunity where not only do we have the world-class educational system preparing for those next astronauts that are Georgia Tech grads or UGA folks that are aerospace engineers that are building these CubeSats, but they'll be able to actually be right here at the ultimate laboratory where they can actually see the hardware and theory tested. And you can't do that now. And I was fortunate to have Georgia Tech, the Yellow Jackets Rocket Club, approached me a couple of years ago, asked if I could help them to be able to let them do one of their launches. And they did that. And they said, Steve, we can't attach hardware to theory at Georgia Tech. We love Georgia Tech, and that's where they're at. But the opportunity to take what we learned, bring the rocket here and launch it, that gives us very valuable information. So to be able to do all that would be, really, really amazing to be able to accomplish that goal together. And there's no reason why we can't do it.
Now,
history's on our side.
What is the timeline in kind of best and worst case scenario? If everything is going as you dreamed, how quickly could a launch happen? Is this something that's a year, 2 year, 5 years away?
It should, what should happen is this, I'd predict 24 months or less is when, in reality, and some of that's going to be based on the operator, the rocket companies, their schedules, their ability, where they're at in their process as well. But there's a high probability you could do this. The property itself, there'd be some build out required on it. But based on, the companies currently we're in discussions with, they need little infrastructure. That's kind of the nice thing about the small
right.
rocket.
They probably like the fact that it's kind of a blank slate, right? That
they do.
They can build it as they need it.
It allows more flexibility for them. So those are discussions we're going to have, shortly with some companies. And there's several companies out there that, there's some that, that you're in the market with fixed and things like that. So I think those are things we look at all those things. But you could relatively, begin, I think 24 months or less. You could, in reality, do something off of that site with the right operator. So that's going to be, the importance is going to be the right operator with where they're at in their process as well.
So now from a safety standpoint, I would imagine there's a lot of benefits of that location just because it's kind of away from folks and it's near the ocean, right? That's pretty, I would imagine it kind of doesn't solve it completely, but it kind of mitigates a lot of that risk.
It does. One of the things, you'll see the importance of being close to a waterway. The other thing, which is, pretty amazing, is the location of it, but also, yes, the closeness to the Atlantic Ocean is very critical. There's a statistic that I recently seen online. I think it was through the CDC. The likelihood of somebody getting hit, or I think it was hit or killed by lightning strike, was 1 in 500,000. The term the FAA uses is the likelihood of somebody getting hurt or worse. With the launch of a small lift rocket from this site is less than 1 in 10 million, and then 1 in 100 million. So you can do this safely. So it meets all the safety criteria from the FAA as well as the DoD. But technology is just amazing how that is it's amazing with how safe the technology is and how it's enhancing the capabilities of these rockets to launch. And you also got to think, I tell a lot of people that, these payloads that are on these rockets that are launching, have millions and millions of dollars setting on that rocket. So they're going to ensure that that rocket is safe as well. They're not going to, they're going to be very cautious and risk tolerant to make sure that, in fact, that rocket is going to make that orbit. And the other thing is we're not launching any unproven rockets, part of our application. These will be, proven rockets that have a track record.
Now, it sounds like Camden County and the state of Georgia are kind of leaning into this because they see the upside. That helps make things go a lot faster, right?
Well, I think, there's definitely demand. If you're starting to see, the articles and things like that about, the potential opportunities. So I think, we're at the right place, right time. You do see a lot of sometimes articles on spaceports that have been approved, but those are horizontal. So you won't see another vertical that's been approved, and that's really the uniqueness about this site and why you see really you see all the activity. I think the record for activity, they're projecting like 50 launches, I think, at Kennedy, and there's a reason for that. For that location, and we actually can duplicate that location within a 2% margin. So that's pretty attractive. It's competitive advantage, not only for the state of Georgia, Camden, and the region, but also really America. So at the end of the day, this is a national asset that should be leveraged, even for site redundancy. This is critically important that America has this launch site available for readiness.
Because it could double the amount of launches from kind of relatively the same area.
Absolutely. We're about 100. One of the reasons the site was chosen back in the 60s, there was an article I looked at, was because they called it a strategic location. They had looked on the East Coast and West Coast for a piece of property that had the same attributes which it has today, which I would argue that it's better today with what we have now currently. With roadway systems and things like that, and the port systems and how advanced they are, today. But because it was 170 miles away from Cape Canaveral, Kennedy area, so absolutely, your point is well taken. This is an amazing asset that should be leveraged for, site redundancy. So this is an opportunity to ensure that America has another asset available, ready if needed.
So now, what do you need more of? How can we help?
Could you repeat that?
What do you need more of? How can the public help you?
Well, I think for the public to help is the importance of building for the future. And this is a visionary project. I had the opportunity when I was in Atlanta before COVID. I was somewhere, and I was speaking with somebody that was related to somebody that was involved with the city of Atlanta. And talked about, how important that was back then. There was a lot of doubt, I think when they were, putting in the airport there. But look at the airport and the amazing benefit that economic engine creates for the state of Georgia, the port system. At some point, somebody had to say, let's create a port, and look at the amazing opportunity there. So somebody has to build for the future. You have to have the courage to create change. So this is what the future looks like. So if you're looking at the new space race, you're looking at STEM opportunities, technology, and things like that. you've got to build for the future. And if you don't, somebody else will. The good news is you really can't do this anywhere else on the East Coast. So you have an asset that no one else has. You can create competitive advantage as a result of that. But the importance is to ensure that we have folks that understand that value, but also understand that we're building for the future, and this is what the future looks like. And there's always risk in doing something and risk in doing nothing. But we need to ensure that Georgia's next generation not only has hope, but has an opportunity. And we're not hoping for luck. We're creating opportunity for the next generation to ensure they have an opportunity to build for the future. And Georgia, with all the assets we have, with Georgia Tech, UGA, Kennesaw, Georgia Southern, all of these educational systems we have that are doing some amazing things. If you look at all the PhDs that have graduated out of Georgia, if you look at how many astronauts have graduated from Georgia Tech, we have the opportunity to reduce the cost of doing business geographically at the location we're at and leverage that even between the other two spaceports. This is ours to lose. So it's a unique moment for us to do this, to leverage this, that we don't want to miss out on. And this is too important to ensure that not only my daughter, but if you have a child or grandchild or neighbor, that's what this is about. This is about ensuring that they have an opportunity in the future. And this may help that. This type of project is a project that's just not of just Camden and regional significance, it's national significance. That is just one of those unique opportunities, to make history again in the 21st century.
Well, if somebody wants to learn more, is there a website to get more information about the spaceport?
There is. It's just www.spaceportcamden.us. And lots of, great information there. Got some documentation on the proposed mission possible document, which is the Innovation Research Park. There's a great document on the right place, right time. There's some amazing historical photos when it was a space booster plant in the 20th century. So a lot of great, documentation. And there's also video footage back in 2017 when the first commercial rocket was launched on Georgia soil. We accomplished that goal with a company called Vector Space Systems at the time, which was interesting. If you can see the top of the rocket, you'll see a NASA logo on it and another company. So there was significance with that launch, with data that they were able to retrieve. So Georgia was part of that history-making opportunity too. So we can do it again. And one day we'll be able to watch a rocket launch from Georgia soil, and we hope that goal will be that Georgia played a role not only in building it, they played a role in designing it, and they played a role in launching it, and they played a role in landing it, and they inspired the next generation to dream big.
Amen to that. Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. You have a great day, and I appreciate the support. And we're going to leave here and go on to the moon, then on to Mars.
There you go.
Have a great day.
Sounds like a full day. All right.
Sounds great. Take care. All the best.
All right. This is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio. And remember, this work could not be done without the support of our sponsor, OnPay. Please support them so we can continue to share these important stories.
Today's episode of Atlanta Business Radio is brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com.